Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. It is time for another action figure review here on the channel today. And as you can see on the screen right now, this installment is going to be all about the G.I. Joe classified but not classified Retro Scarlett figure that they've recently released. So stick around, I'm going to give you a full walkthrough of the figure so that if you're thinking about picking one up of your own, it's my hope that my thoughts today will help you make your mind up. I'm going to talk about the aesthetic and the visual experience of the figure. I'm going to talk about all the merry fun you can have with all the extras and added value in the accessories, and give you a quick run through of the articulation on the figure. And by the end of it all, I should hopefully have helped you make a purchase decision about the new Scarlett. So yeah, let's not dilly-dally around. Let's get into it. Let's take a look at the figure. Hey folks, Chris here. So regulars around these parts will know that normally at this point in the video I would jump on over to share my unboxing experience. You would be blessed with seeing my first instinctual reaction to the packaging and the figure itself. In fact, if I've edited this correctly, you'll be seeing the footage I took take place around me right now. But if I switch on over to the live audio from this video, let's find out why I'm here now instead of you getting past Chris. Yes, that's right, folks. My microphone wasn't plugged into my laptop. Well, it was plugged into a laptop. It was plugged into my work laptop because I'd been working from home that day and I'd neglected to plug it back in and hadn't noticed that my equalizer wasn't going at the bottom of the screen. So we have an unboxing here with no audio. In fact, this is the first of 4 figures that I unboxed in a row without my microphone plugged into my laptop. So please feel free to head on down to the comments, point out my idiocy. We'll just chalk this one up to experience. I'm a big boy. I could take the feedback. And that's a much shorter section on the video, so I might do it like this every time. But there you go. Apologies to those who enjoy seeing me unbox the figure. Let's now go back to, not past Chris, but past Chris, who reviewed the figure with a plugged-in microphone. All right, see you in a minute. All right then, folks, so into the review section of the video now. Then we're going to start with the aesthetics of the figure. Let's discuss the visual experience. And here is Scarlett, more or less how she came out the box. I don't know if you can just see peeking over the shoulder there. I've added one of the 2 ponytails here, which she wasn't wearing when she came out the box. But taking a look at the figure head to toe, obviously as a retro cardback edition of Scarlett, clearly very heavily inspired by the vintage figure look and the old vintage look from the cartoons and the older comic books. So this is a retro reinterpretation rather than a modern kind of classified reinterpretation, which, to be fair, it doesn't claim to be. There's no mention of classified in the packaging or anything, even though it is a 6-inch G.I. Joe figure, the same scale, shape and molding as a G.I. Joe classified figure, but regardless. So we can see the colour schemes and the costume design. The outfit uniform design is the same as the vintage figure. The yellow leotard, the yellow gloves, the yellow boots, the kind of dark grey bodysuit underneath it all, the little flash of red with the red shoulder pad there, all classic vintage figure inspired look, but with a few extra trimmings and a bit more depth and texture added with regards to things like, this kind of greeny colour, bits of belting and knife sheath on the thigh and all that kind of stuff. So it's retro cardback. It's extremely retro in look and feel, although arguably when you take a closer look at things like Big Boa, which I've just recently reviewed on the channel, I'm not sure what the distinction between retro and mainline classified is anyway, but there you go. So if you're looking for the old classic look, if you, like me, want to reenact those classic scenes that you remember from your old Action Force comics days in the 80s, then this is the figure for you. Bringing Scarlett a little nearer to the camera so we can conduct a closer inspection of the finer details. We can see that a lot of the texture and sculpting detail that the G.I. Joe classified design team put in their figures are all present and correct. Starting with the head sculpt here, we can see well-defined facial features, some lovely paint applications to bring the design to life. The lips, the eyes, the eyebrows, the little earrings there on the side, look, all painted on. Obviously, that signature visual feature, the big flash of scarlet hair, is present and correct. Well sculpted as always, got some nice dynamic flow to it to bring it to life and give it a bit of energy, which is really nice to see as always with the G.I. Joe stuff of late. I like the facial design. I know round and about I saw some folks on the social saying they weren't too keen on it, but the facial features I think are nice. They're attractive. At a glance, that's Scarlett to me, and the nice little, very subtle touches like the little blush across the cheeks and things just really bring it to life and give the figure some depth. My only criticism of the head sculpt, I don't know if you can see there on the eyebrow, just got a tiny little dot of paint spill from the eyebrows onto the forehead, the skin colour of the forehead, which is a wee bit of a shame, but easily fixed. Moving down into the body, we can see the sculpted details on the shoulder pad there, and obviously the paint application to give it a splash of colour. We've got these zips in the uniform and some sculpted details. It looks like they've kind of padded it up, like flat jacketed the more leotard style look, which I appreciate. The grenades painted. Then you've got the balance of the yellow gloves and the yellow main body of the outfit there on the top of the black bodysuit underneath. Got this double belt here across the middle, one obviously sculpted onto the figure, and then this one that comes across the top. They're both in this kind of greeny colour that the trimmings are all decorated in. The one across the top holds the quiver here. If I turn around slightly, you can see another paint application on the quiver there, another splash of red, just to give it a little bit more colour and variety in the design. Well sculpted, got all sorts of like shell shapes and studs and buckles. The front buckle has a paint application on it as well, always a big fan when they do that. And they've even applied a little bit of brass colour paint on the bullets in the belt there, which I'm also very appreciative of. Also, while I'm sort of on this left-hand side of the figure, we've got the two shuriken there mounted on the back of her like long glove gauntlet-y thing. These have been painted too to make them stand out. And then on the inside of this glove, we've got the little spring-loaded derringer here mounted on the forearm, on the inside of the forearm. That's in the this kind of greeny colour as well, which is a bit of a shame. I'd have rather the more kind of gunbolt metallic look, but they've obviously done that to keep it consistent with the decision to make the rifle, the laser gun, the pistol, which I'll show you later, in that colour. So a nice little bit of storytelling, a bit of character stuff in the mix there as well. Then just all the usual kind of detail, nice, sculpting in the musculature of the arms and the legs, some texture detail in there, a few folds and creases where necessary. And of course the boots down the bottom here, you can see lots of sculpting detail in there as well, and in the matching yellow to the gloves to give it that symmetry, that kind of framing that they like to do with the colours of the figures. Oh, I forgot to mention, just swinging back up to the belt. Sorry, I know I've gone all the way down to the boots, but I meant to mention one interesting thing they've done here. So this belt that sits across the top, if I just pull this forward ever so slightly with my thumbnail there, they've put a little peg hole in the body there on the underbelt, and then obviously put a little peg in this belt. It's one of those kind of soft rubbery ones, so it's not great, but it sort of pegs in to keep this top belt in a very specific position across the front there, and obviously this resting on the hip. Now, obviously, there's benefits and drawbacks to that. I sometimes get frustrated when the belts are a bit fiddly and a bit faffy and they fall and they can't quite get them sitting in a nice position. So it defeats that challenge, but it also takes away, obviously, some of your options if you want to sling it around the back a bit or bring it around the front, However, you can just pop that peg out loose and move it around if you want. But I thought that was interesting. I'm not sure if we've seen that before on Classified. I don't think we have. So my thoughts about the visual experience here are much the same as the big boa that I recently reviewed. Your mileage will vary depending on your level of interest in a nostalgic reinterpretation or whether you want a modernised contemporary reinterpretation of the figure. This is obviously the retro card back, so I suspect if you're not interested in leaning very heavily into the vintage retro reinterpretation of the figure, you likely won't have picked it up. But for me, I'm really into it because I want to get my Snake Eyes out and reenact the old, the cut and run storyline and stuff, and make some in-panel versions, some photos of my favourite in-panel kind of scenes with the two of them together. So it works for me. I'm all on board. And she definitely is complemented very well by Duke, which I'll get around to recording a review for soon. But if that's not what you want, well, you've got your other, got the original kind of first wave or second wave, whenever it was, Scarlett, which is the more contemporary interpretation of the figure. But it's got all the usual aesthetic, visual experience qualities that we've come to expect from that design team over in Hasbro right now. It's well sculpted, well put together, looks great, colours pop, it's got everything that you might want, and therefore I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Okay, let's move on to talk about Scarlett's articulation, shall we? All right then, so it's standard, 6-inch G.I. Joe stuff from Hasbro right now. I'll get started at the top here with the head. It's the ball in, at the top of the neck and the ball at the bottom, which gives you decent down, decent up, although that's clearly obstructed by the ponytail at the back here. All the way round, full Exorcist 360 and some good tilty motion. Nothing in the uniform, no collars or anything obstructing the movement to the left and right in terms of what you would be looking to do posing wise, and when you take your photos and make nice little displays. So the ponytail obstructions, not a big deal particularly. Then further down into the torso, got the butterfly joint here in the shoulders, giving you a nice bit of shuffle back and forth. Then it's the hinge and swivel in the arms, so you can get a full 360 there, and then the hinges bring them out to do a nice T-shape. In fact, she goes up a little bit further. I'll do the mash, do the monster mash. Don't know where that came from. Then swivel here at the top of the bicep and tricep. Nice pinless elbows getting you up to there. And then it's trigger finger grippy hands on the figure out of the box, which are the usual kind of pegged in, so you can do the full 360, and then there's an up and down hinge in there as well on both hands. Then moving into the main body, we've got the cut across the under the boobs there, and then the waist cut as well, so you've got a good range of motion in there. Nice and responsive, nice and silky turning there, and then the same again with the waist as well, giving you a good range of motion in the torso. Standard G.I. Joe Classified Series drop-down joint in the legs, so you've got good range of motion forward. Got the ballet splits in there, although obviously the quiver is a little obstructive on this right leg here. Thigh cut at the top of the thigh, giving you a bit of swivel there. These can also be nicely obscured by the little leg straps there to make it look a bit cleaner and neater. Pinless double knee, getting you up to there. And then the hinge and rockers in the feet, giving you a range of motion in the ankles. Now, while I'm on the legs, I have found Scarlett to be a very tricky independent stander, and I think it's the ankles. It might also be the shape of this heel on the boot. I can't quite figure it out, but something down here is making it very difficult to make her independently stand when I'm posing her up, and it's been a little annoying, actually, if I'm being honest. I know she comes with the foot stand, which I'll obviously talk about when I move on to the accessories in a minute, but she's just very difficult to find that little, centre of gravity, that little balance point to get her standing right. She just sort of barrels. Oh, well, oh, no, it's all right. I was about to say, of course, on camera she was about to stand then, but no, you can see she fell backwards. And that gets even worse when you put the backpack on her, actually. So I don't know what it is. It's me. If anyone's got any suggestions in the comments below, if you've got your Scarlett in hand already and there's something I'm clearly doing wrong when I'm manhandling the poor lass here, but I think it's the ankles. It's down here or something to do with the shape of the boots. So I find it very difficult to do good, lower half stuff. So I was trying to sort of get her angled like this with the crossbow in her hand that I'll show you in a minute, and I sort of had a loose crossbow in this hand, and I was doing this whole thing like, oh, I'm loading my bow and I'm going to shoot a cobra in the face kind of thing. And, oh, well, thanks, Scarlett. Thanks so much. Just proved me a fool on camera there. But trust me, it does happen. Hey! That was with the bombastic volume of my voice there. So I can't rule out that independent standing situation's not me. Open to thoughts, comments, reflections, and feedback in the YouTube comment section down below. But what that has done is it's affected my articulation experience, my posing experience with the figure, which means it's not a full thumbs up. I'm going to have to bring her down a bit more into the middle. I found it a little annoying, a little frustrating, and I'll talk about it in a moment, but I don't like using the foot stand so much because it's not consistent across the whole G.I. Joe 6-inch line. The classified line that I collect is only on the retro ones and the 60th anniversary ones, so I'm not so keen on using those until at least a point where they release a pack and I can put my older figures on one too. You know what I mean? So there you go. There's articulation. Let's now take a closer look at the accessories and added value. All right then, so first up, the ponytails. There's 2 in the packet there. We've got this one, which is a bit more kind of straight down, more draped down. And then the second one, which has got the kind of kink. There's a sort of L-shaped kink in it there. These just peg in at the back there, so they're articulated. You can spin them around, and they're just super easy to plug in and unplug as desired. I quite like that one with a little range of motion on it. Now, the reason for 2 ponytails, particularly this one with the larger, wider kink in it, is because Scarlett comes with a backpack. It's fairly small compared to other backpacks we've seen across the line, but it's got some nice sculpted detail in there. No paint applications, and it's got a couple of pegs on either side for weapons and whatnot, which we'll take a look at in a moment. And it's the standard pegged in kind of set up into the peg hole at the back of the figure. So this ponytail here can then drape down across the top of the backpack while she's wearing it, whereas this one obviously sort of drops down and doesn't sit across the backpack very neatly unless she's looking directly down kind of thing. And there's, I've played around with it, turning it left and right and sort of sitting it in certain positions to suit the sort of poses that I've been doing. There's the foot stand. This is the standard G.I. Joe retro cardback foot stand. The black kind of moulded piece of plastic there with the 2 foot pegs and got the G.I. Joe star in it for the G.I. Joe characters. Obviously, there's a Cobra in it for the Cobra characters. And that just works with the peg holes at the bottom of the figure there. Scarlett comes with the M16 style rifle. This is the same as the one we've seen on Grunt and on Mutt. This is obviously in that greeny style plastic, which I'm not the biggest fan of, actually. I just prefer my guns to be black or metal looking or something. I'm not so keen when they put them in these weird colours. They have painted the butt on it to give it a little bit of variety, and it's well sculpted. You can see all the sculpted details in there, and it's got the removable magazine and stuff as standard, but I'm not a big fan of that colour scheme. Then we have the classic 80s cartoon style laser rifle thing. Mine's a little warped. I keep meaning to heat it up, but I'm forgetting to get around to it. But we've seen this already on Grunts, and Duke's got one as well. Well sculpted, got the detail in there, and obviously a nice accessory to tie in with the retro line that's obviously been very heavily inspired by the vintage look and feel of the figures. Then we have the handgun here. Again, like a standard sort of, like a 9mm shooty pew thing. We've seen that before as well across the line. Sculpted details. It's in the greeny colour with the sort of darker, more browny shaded slider across the top there. What do you call that? The cocking mechanism or something? I don't know. Let me know, firearms fans. Fill me in. Yeah, this is fine. It's just I'm not a fan of the colour again, like I mentioned with the rifles. What we haven't got though is anywhere to store this on the figure, and that trigger hole there is not big enough to accommodate the pegs on the backpack if you wanted to mount it on the backpack. So that's just gonna, hang out. Then we've got the little knife here. Is it a knife? Is it a dagger? Anyway, the bladey thing, which we've seen several times in the line, in the greeny colour again, with the brown painted blade. Not a fan of that at all. I like my blades to be a metallic colour, but it's fine. It is what it is. That's got a little sheath on the thigh there. Just slide it in like so. Then we have the crossbow with the little arrow selection. This is interesting here. So the crossbow comes in 2 parts with a little peg on the front there. So there's a hole in the front, and you can pop that in like so. The peg is not very long. The peg hole's not very deep, so that's loose, and I knock that off all the time. But I'm assuming it's got something to do with maybe being able to turn it that way round, or something to do with the way it's sculpted in the factory. I'm not sure what the reasoning for that is. We've got this little handle at the front there. You got all the sculpted detail, like this little, what's that, like a little gas canister thing for firing arrows, little butt on it. It's fine. And then it's got a groove across the top, which is the perfect size for using one of the arrows in it. Then the arrows are just in the same black sculpted plastic as the crossbow, with slightly different arrowheads and things, and like this one here with the, what's that, you put a cord on the end of it and use it for like a grappling hook type thing, which is fine. These fit in the quiver, but it's a bit of a funny fit actually, as far as popping it in there. I find this one in particular is a tricky one to get in. So there's 4 holes in the quiver, but there's no way you can put 4 arrows in those holes and have them all together. I mean, obviously the grappling hook one just won't fit. So if you do that, then you're going to have to put it sort of arrowhead up, but that then blocks and obscures the second hole there. So what I've kind of been doing is putting them in like so, putting the two smaller ones in, that's the taller one, sorry, putting the two smaller ones in at the back there, putting the grappling hook one at the front, and then just mounting the longer arrow on the actual crossbow itself. Sorry, you can't really see that for my fingers. Let me just press that in there. So you've got those little grooves at the side there for the feathers, and then it kind of sticks the arrow out the front there like that. And that's about the best I could do with it, really. And it all kind of looks a bit sort of higgledy-piggledy and a bit messy. In fact, sometimes I've not even bothered putting this one in, just had two arrows sort of spaced out intermittently like so, which I think looks a little tiny bit neater, you know. And then finally, you can see here there's a hand swap for both hands. I've just changed one out on the figure right now on the left hand there in the fist positioning, so that you can do, you know, Yojo fist bumps into the air or punch cobras in the face, and that's fine, one for each hand. I've said many times before on these reviews, I think these should just come as standard, and you can see there that these are pegged in with forward and back hinges rather than up and down. So overall, it's a decent accessory selection. Certainly, it adds to your storytelling. It gives you a range of options with regards to posing, a wide range of weapons to have posed up with, to photograph her with, to put her in little dioramas. Not without its flaws, as I pointed out as I've gone along, but okay. And thank the Lord for this foot stand with regards to my weird ankle standing problem. So I think I'm going to give the accessory selection a thumbs up. I think it's decent, it's solid, even despite those handful of flaws that I've picked out as I've gone along, because I've had a lot of fun chopping and changing stuff around and doing different things with her, with regards to making good use of the accessories. So what more could you want? And there's a fair bit. It's good value for money. All right then, folks. Well, here's Scarlett going around on the turntable there. Now, I have to confess, I've not really settled into a pose for the figure as of yet, because I'm still trying to get my head around what to do with this little sort of freestanding issue. And so she's gone on the stand and gone into that kind of more rigid sort of standing to attention style thing, but I'll figure something out soon enough. But you can get a full 360 view of the figure there now. And overall, I'm pleased, I'm happy. I wanted, as I mentioned before, I wanted a retro looking figure so that I could reenact those favourite scenes from the cartoon and the old Action Force comic books that I used to read, and I've got one, and she looks good. But there are a few flaws in the articulation, and some of the accessories are a bit a little bit squiffy in places, so there's a few bits that have affected my overall experience, and if those niggly little bits are going to do your nutting, then I'd probably give the figure a wide berth. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up because I wanted the retro look and feel, but I do it tentatively, mindful of the fact that not everybody's going to enjoy the aesthetic as much as me, and those articulation and accessory problems are perhaps going to bug some people. So there you go. That's the whole point. I'm here to help you make that purchase decision. So hopefully I've given a thorough enough overview there for you to make your mind up. All right. Okay. Well, that's it all done. I hope you've enjoyed the video today. Please do give us a thumbs up like if you have found it helpful, and do all that YouTubey stuff like click subscribe and turn on the notifications, because sometimes I live stream. You can do that. Also, quick shout out to my buddy Connor over at Fuller's Figure. He did me a massive solid with a lovely, very generous signal boost on his recent review of Big Boa, and I would like to reciprocate and return the favour by giving him a big shout out on my video. So everybody, don't just subscribe to me, go subscribe to Fuller's Figures over here. I'll put a link in the description down below, because Connor is solid dude, and I enjoy my time with him in the community very, very much. All right, well, I hope you have a great day. Take it easy, folks, and I'll see you around these parts again sometime soon. All right, ta-ra now.